Second half of the MLB season got underway about a week ago. And this is typically when teams are starting to round into form and approach the second half of the season a little bit more seriously, right? And so the New York Yankees, such a fascinating team. They just wrapped up a brief 3-game series against the Boston Red Sox yesterday. They blew them out 9-1. They actually took the series. They won 2 of 3 games. The 4th game that they should have played got postponed. And the Boston Red Sox right now top the AL East, half game ahead of the Tampa Bay Rays. Again, I don't talk about baseball every single day because there's so many games that are being played, but there are a few franchises that we pay attention to, and the New York Yankees are one of those franchises. The most World Series championships in MLB history with 27, and the Yankees are one of the most perplexing and, to be honest, underachieving teams that we've seen this year. There's no question about it. One of the most perplexing and underachieving teams. To start this year, me and other media pundits and experts prognosticated and projected that the New York Yankees were a top 3 team in baseball. You look at this team's talent, the talent level they have on paper should suggest that they would have a better record, that they would have more success. When you've got Aaron Judge, when you've got Giancarlo Stanton, when you got Gleyber Torres, when you got Gio Urshela, and when you got DJ LeMahieu, this team is stacked. This team is absolutely stacked, and they stumbled out of the gates to start the year. At one point, they were 5-10, and they never seemed to fully recover from that start. And it's extremely perplexing to me and mind-boggling because this team is just a Rubik's Cube that we can't quite figure out. We can't pinpoint why it is exactly that they've had to deal with so much strife. But for whatever reason, again, this is a team that's got the payroll to suggest that they should be competing for a World Series. And so this is why, and I'm not even a New York Yankees fan. I actually like the Dodgers. I root for the Dodgers in LA. But I like witnessing greatness. I like witnessing history and the best players and the best teams competing against one another. And right now, the Yankees, they're 48-44. They're 4th in the AL East, behind the Toronto Blue Jays, behind the Tampa Bay Rays, and behind the Boston Red Sox. And with all of that being said, if I had to guess, because the question is, will they make the playoffs? And it's a very narrow margin for them to reach the playoffs right now. Because you look at the standings, and the answer is I do think that they will creep into a wild card spot. Because if you look at the standings, right now, there are a couple certainties. Baseball extended and expanded their postseason. So now there's 10 teams that reach the postseason. The 3 division leaders, and then 2 extra wild card spots in the NL and in the AL. If you look at the AL, you got the Boston Red Sox that are atop the AL East, the Chicago White Sox atop the AL Central, the Houston Astros atop the AL West. And right now it looks like the Astros and the White Sox will cinch up their division leaders. We'll cinch up those divisions so they will advance. And then whether it's the Boston Red Sox or the Tampa Bay Rays, one of those teams is going to win their division, and the other is going to be the first wild card team. So that's 4. So now you've got one final playoff wild card spot up for grabs between the Oakland A's, who are 3.5 games up over the Yankees, the Seattle Mariners, that are 1 game up over the Yankees, and the Toronto Blue Jays, that are 1 game up. So you got 4 teams, the A's, the Mariners, the Blue Jays, and the Yankees. Again, 3 teams from the same division competing, and you've got 4 teams competing realistically for one final spot. Now, here is why I ultimately think that the Yankees can prevail and come out on top of this. And mind you, I am picking with my heart over my head. The pragmatic thing is, no, the Yankees are not going to make the playoffs. They don't look like a playoff caliber team. They don't have the consistency that's needed. But the reality is, my heart is saying they just have too much talent. And whether or not you believe they've come up short in previous postseasons, they've made the postseasons with this team. Gary Sanchez, too, by the way. They've made the postseason with this team. And so you look at you look at the Toronto Blue Jays, and you say to yourself, well, they're having a great season. I love Vladimir Guerrero Jr., but I think the Yankees can leapfrog them. They're only a game back, 2 games back in the loss column. I think they can catch the Blue Jays. I think they can catch the Mariners. The Mariners are only a game up on them, and I like what Seattle's got going on, but it's the Yankees. They'll find a way. The only team that is going to be a little dicey is the Oakland A's, who are 3.5 games up. But the beauty is you've got intra-division games against the Blue Jays, and you've got interleague games coming up against all those teams, against the Mariners, against the Oakland A's. So you've got opportunities to leapfrog them in the standings. But the misconception is that the Yankees' struggles are because they're pitching. No, the Yankees' struggles was not with their pitching. They got a top 10 bullpen. They have a top 10 ERA for their arms in the MLB. Their issue is with their batting. They're at bats. They can't do damage on offense, which is where they had normally been so successful. They rank 19th in the MLB in batting average at .235. In the MLB, the Yankees are 19th. The only saving grace is that the Oakland A's somehow have a worse batting average than they do. Even the Tampa Bay Rays have a worse batting average than they do as a team. But they've got slightly better pitching, and they don't make as many errors, and they get on base, and they score more. So, again, it's a very sticky situation for the Yankees right now, and I think there should be some optimism after beating the Red Sox that they can start to really turn this thing around. Again, they got off to such a horrendous start, but I do think that they can make the playoffs just because they've got too much talent to miss. If they don't make the playoffs this year, I think you have to blow it all up. I really do. Again, I mean, Garrett Cole is fantastic. You're paying these guys exorbitant amounts of money, and if it doesn't yield any wins, then what's the point? So again, they have not made it easy on themselves at all. They have not made it easy on themselves, but I still like their chances to advance and at least lock up a wild card spot. Again, they're not going to win the AL East. They're not going to surpass the Red Sox. They're not going to surpass the Rays. They might make it more interesting, but ultimately they're going to come up a little bit short. But that's not their target. Their target should be the Oakland A's, the Mariners, and the Blue Jays. Those are the teams that they should be competing against. Okay.